99% of beginners aren't seeing progress because they don't understand the most important thing for growth, how to practice. I'm going to show you 5 of the biggest practice mistakes you should avoid so you can practice smart and start to see real growth in your playing. Have you ever tried learning a new song by starting at the beginning and trying to get all the way to the end? Well, me too, but I could never get through the whole thing without messing up. There was no consistency. I would mess up in a different spot each time, or even worse, I keep messing up in the same parts, which actually reinforce a mistake. It wasn't until I started breaking things down into tiny chunks that I was able to get through the whole thing clean without a single mistake. So here's what I started doing. I would take one little part and work on that by itself, and then the next part by itself, and so on. And after each part was solid on its own, then I would try and put them together. But how exactly did I practice each part? That's actually the most important thing, but I'll get to that in a second. You can do this whether you're trying to learn a scale, a mode, a song, whatever. Just take it one section at a time. So instead of trying to play the whole scale up and down all 6 strings, just take 2 strings and repeat those over and over. And then the next 2, and then the last 2, and then put it all together. Or sometimes I practice only going up and then practice only going down, and then I'd put it together up and down. And it's the same thing with chords. If you're learning a new tricky chord, just try the first couple strings, get that down, and then add a 3rd string, and then a 4th. You're building it like Legos, one piece at a time. And if you're learning a new song, start with the first verse, get that clean, and then try to learn the chorus, and then the bridge, and then put it all together. I can't give every possible example, but hopefully you get the idea. Don't try to learn the whole thing at once. Take it in one little section at a time. Now, when I first started breaking things down into sections like that, I was still making one big mistake: how I was practicing each little part. I was working on each section by itself, but I was rushing through it, trying to get through it fast so I could move on to the next part, and I was still making mistakes. But I thought, well, I just haven't done it enough. If I keep playing it over and over, eventually I'll get it. But it didn't work because, once again, I was still reinforcing bad habits and training my brain to do it wrong. Your number one goal needs to be to play it clean, not trying to play it fast, because the speed will come on its own with enough repetition. What actually worked was slowing way down and focusing on accuracy. And I'm talking like ridiculously slow. Once I started practicing super slow and repeating that over and over, I started hitting every note clean, and my fingers knew exactly where to go. And once I got it perfect at a slow tempo, speeding it up became 10 times easier. Slow and clean is better than fast and dirty. Now, this next one is probably the biggest game changer for me. In the beginning, I would learn something new and I would work on it obsessively over and over until I could play it right. But then when I would go to play it the next day, I would play it wrong. And that's because I was doing the exact opposite of what I should be doing. Now, to understand this, you really need to understand how your brain learns things. Your brain recognizes patterns. So when my 2.5-year-old was learning how to walk, he had to go really slow and think about every single step in the beginning. But after he repeated that over and over, eventually his brain knew what to do, and now he runs around like a wild animal. I used to play a part over and over until I got it right, thinking if I did it enough times, it would eventually train my brain to do it correctly. And then once I got it right, I'd move on to the next thing. But what happened was I had just played it wrong 10 times and I had only played it right 1 time. By playing it wrong over and over, I was teaching my brain that that was the way to play it. My brain was learning that repeated pattern, so we need to reverse that. We need to play it correctly more times than incorrectly. So what really changed that for me was I just started looping one little part over and over until I could play it perfectly, not once, not twice, but over and over again without a single mistake. I started turning it into a little game for myself, so I wouldn't allow myself to move on to the next part until I could play that part 4 times in a row perfectly. So if I played it once, twice, 3rd time, and then I messed up on the 4th time, I would start over. And then once I could finally get 4 in a row, then I would move on to the next little part and do the same thing. And after each piece felt solid on its own, Then I would put it all together. And as soon as I started practicing like that, I was able to play through the whole thing perfectly without a single mistake. So just remember, don't move on once you can play it right. Wait until you can play it right over and over. Okay, for this next one, I'm gonna give you 2 examples and I wanna see if you can guess what the problem is.
Hey, my name is Example 1, and I like practicing with a metronome.
Hey there, my name's Example 2, and I find metronomes highly annoying, and I hate practicing with them. I also like to wear sunglasses indoors because I think it makes me look cool, and I don't even realize that I actually look like a dork.
Example 1 had good timing and stayed right with the drummer, but example 2 doesn't like playing with the metronome, and because of that, his timing is not good. He can't stay with a drummer to save his life, and when people listen to him play, they can't bob their head or tap their foot because his rhythm is all over the place. After teaching for over 24 years now, this has got to be one of the most neglected things I've seen. People hate practicing with the metronome, and I get it, they can sound annoying and it can be a challenge in the beginning, but the reason why it's a challenge is because your timing's not solid, and the best way to get your timing solid is to practice with the metronome. So you just got to do it. You can download a free app. There's a ton of free ones out there. Try some different sounds if you really hate the click sound, but do this like your timing depends on it, because if you're not practicing with the metronome, your timing will always suffer. Now, you can be doing all this stuff to a T, but if you miss this last one, none of that matters. But before I get to that, let me just say real quick, if you watch my videos, you know I talk about this stuff a lot, and there's a good reason why, because learning how to practice is the thing that's helped me the most out of my 30 years of playing music. And the students that I've taught that do this are the ones who have become incredible players, and I want to see you succeed. So make it a point to actually start doing this starting today. Okay, so when I was younger, sometimes I might slack a little bit and not practice as much as I should, and then I would try to cram a few hours in the day before my lesson to catch up. And sometimes I would get the parts down, but then I would go into my lesson the next day and I couldn't play it. And I remember thinking, well, that's annoying. I could just play this yesterday. But it's because I wasn't being consistent. If you have an inconsistent practice schedule, it doesn't matter if you're doing all this other stuff right, you're not gonna see the results. You really need to be doing this consistently every day. 30 minutes a day is ideal. If you can do more, that's even better. And I know it can be a challenge, especially if you're an adult with a job and a family, but you really need to make time for this if you want to see the results. But even just doing 10 minutes every day, you're going to see some progress. Now, you can be doing all this stuff right, but if you're practicing with bad hand position, it's going to prevent you from being able to do certain things or even physically hurt you. So if you want to fix 90% of your technique problems, click on this video right here.